and welcome back to the Business And Banter Podcast. My name's Hanley. I am a carpet teller from Scotland, but most of you already know that. But if you're new here, that's who I am. With me is my co-host and friend, Sam from Australia. She sells clothing. And this is the Business And Banter Podcast, where we talk a lot about business, a little bit of banter, and most importantly, we try to add a bit of value to those of you who are listening. I haven't done that spiel in so long.
Well, we're back and we've got a whole bunch of new followers, so thank you for joining us.
We apologize that there was no episode last week. I had a family situation. Everyone's fine. Everything's fine. Logistically, it was just a nightmare. But that's life.
Hadley, you made plans and you were like, damn it. It clashes with the podcast.
No, I actually made plans. Well, I didn't even make plans. It just kind of happened. And then I rolled with it because I had to, because it was family stuff. And then somewhere during rolling with it, I went like, oh, crap. I didn't even grab a laptop or nothing.
Yeah.
So I had to let Sam down. My bad. But here we are, ready to grace you again with our presence, useless information, random conspiracy theories, and maybe a little bit of knowledge. That should be our spiel. That is a lot more like us.
You should clip that for next week.
That's a lot more accurate, isn't it? I feel like it is.
What are we talking about this week, Hanley?
Oh, this week we have stagnation. I almost forgot the word there. This week we're talking about stagnation, which is just a fancy word for saying I'm stuck where I am. It's not where I want to be. I can't figure out why. Or I'm just too comfortable where I am and I don't really want to get to where I want to go because that seems like a lot of effort.
I actually looked up what the word definition was and it means not in a state of flow.
Oh.
So, yeah, it also had stinky as a possible definition as well because obviously the water's stagnant. So then I was like, let's define terms of what flow means, and it's defined as a steady continuous stream or supply of something, or the action or fact of moving along in a steady continuous stream. So that's what stagnation actually means. It's the opposite to that.
So could it mean that, like, even though you're making steady effort, you've not increased the effort above what it needs to keep it steady?
Yeah, so I think sometimes people maybe misdefine what stagnation means in the sense that they maybe feel lazy or overwhelmed and therefore they feel like they're in a place of being just stagnant, whereas really where's the line between stagnant and patient in business? So, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're in a position where you're in, like, you've been in grow mode and then you have to kind of go through a period of being stagnant, of just doing the same thing every single day, you're kind of putting yourself into forced stagnation.
But I feel like if your stagnation has a purpose, then it's good for business. If it doesn't, then it's not. So, for instance, if I've made the decision to grow my business and I push really hard for a year and then I have to stagnate for a while, the purpose in that would be to refill the bank or, wait for the sales to steady out because I've just reinvested everything into the business. So then the stagnation has a purpose. I feel like if you're in a situation where your business isn't meeting your goals or what you're doing, but you're not actually growing, it's because you're maybe not reflecting on the fact that you're not making the right amount of effort, and therefore your effort isn't matching your desired outcome, and you feel stagnant, you feel like you're stuck, you feel like you're not moving along, but it's not with purpose.
100%. Yeah. And I think that's where people maybe get misaligned, where I don't know, let's just say that you've got an overwhelming amount of stock and you're trying to avoid it just because it's like you don't want to deal with it or you don't know how to deal with it. It's like that thing over in the corner. So you kind of put your blinkers on, and in a way it feels like you're stagnant in your business within that because you're avoiding what needs to occur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that actually happened to me. So my business stagnated. I don't feel like that's the right word anymore.
No, right? I've totally blown you out now. You had this whole plan and I've come in and railroaded you.
No, Wait, that's not the right word. Now, what's the word for that then?
That's why it's really important to define terms.
Well, you could have defined it for me before we planned the episode. Like, my notes are now based on that word meaning what I thought it meant. We
Well,
could have
see,
been
you
like,
went ahead. You listened to a whole podcast to be
I
able
did.
to railroad me.
Yes. So my business wasn't
Slowed.
growing.
Slowed.
Yes, slowed. It wasn't growing and wasn't producing the desired outcomes because I didn't want to deal with certain type of stock. But I was still paying for it and I was still getting it to get the other stuff. But my profit was stuck in it because I was only dealing with the stuff I wanted to deal with, right? And
This
so
is
now,
very common.
yeah, a new rule in my business is that if I get a lot of stuff, and we actually did this today, I got a lot of stuff on Thursday. And today I went and I dealt with all the stuff I didn't want to deal with first. So now all of it's done. Like I did, how much did I do? 68 items today, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if they're giant fenders and crack bars, and like that's a lot of stuff to photograph and deal with. But I do it first.
Yeah. You get the
It's
hard
done.
stuff out the way first.
But also, the sooner I get them listed, the sooner I get them sold and up and out of here, and I don't have to deal with them in my unit either. So,
Out
um,
of curiosity, in doing the hard thing first, how does that affect you, like in terms of like your mental I want to say mental state, but that feels wrong. Your mentality moving forward.
it's so, I feel so much more motivated in the business because if you leave it to last, you always have that mountain in front of you. But if you climb
The
the mountain
needle.
first, you get to go down the slide on the other side. So now it's an easy cruise the rest of the week because I get to do the small stuff, the easy stuff. My days are shorter, my days are easier because I spent one day today doing the hard stuff for 5 hours
Right.
instead of spreading it out over the next 8 days and having 8 hard days because I didn't just want to do it. Now I've done it, it's done.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing a lot lately is just getting it out of the way because it feels like a heavy weight on your shoulders. If there's things you're avoiding, but you know it's there,
It's
it
never
just,
going to go away either. And the more you avoid it, the more overwhelming it becomes.
yeah.
And that's like a real big, uh, I want to say like, state, but that doesn't feel right. It's very early, so people can cope with the fact my brain's not working. It's like 5 a.m.
I
um,
get to be the smart one this week because we're recording Sam in the morning and me at night when we're usually recording me in the morning and Sam at night. So this week I get to be the intellectual and Sam gets to be the one who forgets to put on her glasses. But she even did that.
I even got dressed. We're like winning.
I mean, I'm dressed. I've got pajamas like waist down, but I'm here. I still got my makeup on. I'm fine.
Let's roll.
Um, what was really interesting is when we were discussing talking about this, I actually watched a podcast 2 days ago, and I was so excited by it. And I've watched it a couple of times now, and I've delved a bit deeper into it. But I'd like to talk to you about this podcast and bring you some of the theories that they had in the podcast. So the podcast was between a guy called Ryan Pineda and Trevor Macht, who I think I'm saying his surname right, I might not be, but he's the owner and founder of Carrot.com,
I don't
which
know what it
is
is.
a property lead generating site. If I'm, it's in America. He's very big in America. They're
Okay.
both, yeah, they're both very successful people, and they were having a podcast where they were just chatting business. And this Trevor brought up that in business, there's some businesses break or stagnate in the theory of 3 and 10s, right? Which means that in general, most businesses either break or stagnate at 100K, 300K, 1 million, 3 million, 10 million, and 30 million. So the threes and the tens,
I
right?
would so agree with that.
And then he's got an actual reason for each of those why they are breaking or stagnating. And I'd love to run through them with you because I feel like the first two just hit me so hard. And I was like, why don't people tell us this? Obviously, I don't have experience with like the 3 million, 10 million, 30 million yet,
Yeah.
but I'm sure I'm motivated to get those problems. Oh no. My apologies, my phone just went off. Sorry, my bad. Anyway, so what I want to do is if we can run through the different stages of business and why they stagnate, and we can maybe see if you related to them as well. But first off, he
Absolutely.
says businesses will break or your processes break. Something in the business gives at the first time is at 100K, right?
Mhm.
And the reason for this is around that mark is when you really need to start focusing on time management.
That's true. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So before
100%.
we get to 100K burning to 100K, time management isn't really that relevant yet
Mm.
because you're able to just do it. You're working harder, you're working all the hours, you don't really have to. But at 100K, some people are still part time. Not everyone is
Mm.
full time yet. Some people maybe
Mhm.
still have a job. So at
100%.
100K, a lot of people get stuck there or the processes break because they're not time managing properly. And that's exactly what happened to me.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you can't make it to 100K accidentally, but you can get there with part-time effort. Like you can get there
Yeah.
distracted. You can get there
Yeah.
just by like pure hard work and just kind of like pushing your way there. You
Yes.
don't have to have a plan.
And so to get from 100K to 300K is when you really need to
Mm,
time manage, right? Because you need to be able to do more without help. Because at 100K to 300K, you're not making enough yet to pay someone else.
yeah,
All
I've
right.
just
You're
gone
not.
through that. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm,
Me too. So
hmm
we're not making enough for help. So what we have to do is we have to be more efficient. We have to do better at our time management. We have to basically be able to do triple as much
In the same
in the
time.
same amount of time.
Yeah. And the different ways you can do that. So you can either increase your average sale price, which is one that is kind of to a degree outside of your control, or you have to source more, which then takes more time out of
Yeah.
your ability to list, like, or you have to refine your processes for listing. That's so true. Like,
And then this is where the business can experience a break because your
mm,
process will break. If you have to list
mhm.
more, the processes break. If you have to ship more, the process break. And so a lot of people never make it past this first one.
Or it's not even the processes that break, it's you that breaks like mentally. Like it
Yeah.
becomes overwhelming because you
Yeah.
have to fit all this extra stuff in to
Yeah.
three times the
Yeah.
input to be able to get three times the output.
I don't think we realize how big of a jump 100K to 300K was. If I
Mm,
look at the amount of work and listening and effort I had to do to get from 100 to I ended just below the 300 last year. Um, it's immense. And a lot of that time was spent trying to figure out how am I supposed to do this all?
correct. And most of the time it's just you having to allow yourself the ability to do it. Like you have to
Yeah.
stand, get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Mm,
And so what he says is people who's able to identify this and strategically start planning their time and working more scheduled and working, then they are the ones who are able to break through and reach
mm,
the next bracket, which is 300 to a million. But before we get to that, one of the things I've also heard and also been looking into quite a lot is sequencing of priorities.
mm,
And
mhm,
so the most successful people are the best at sequencing priorities, knowing what tasks need to be done first and what task is more critical to the business. And they are able to, in a better way than most of us, structure tasks and a day.
yeah.
Where a lot of us, including me, I have a list of things that need done today, and I kind of, some days, I just grab at whatever there is to get it done,
Mm,
right? But
yeah.
then since I've switched it to actually these are the critical tasks to make my business grow that needs done every day, I'm going to knock them out first thing in the morning and then I'm going to get to the other things. I see that is what helped me get from the 100K to close to the 300K.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, and I'm probably going to butcher what I'm about to say. But there's a saying that says like you spend 80% of your time on like wasted tasks, whereas you need to put that
Mhm.
80% focus on the remaining 20, which is actually the 20% that pushes your business forward.
Yes. I also see
Mm.
a lot of people, including me, we would think about, but what if this happens? And what would I need if this happens? And I'll need eventually I'll need a lister, and eventually I'll need to learn how to do this. But you're not even there yet. But the critical task of your business for that day isn't even done yet. Like, we're talking about what's going to happen when we get there, but our listings aren't finished.
Yeah. Or we
You know?
get like hyper fixated on the fact a return came in, and that can derail our entire day and our entire day's motivation to be able to get the rest of the tasks done. Or it's just slow, and it's been slow for a couple of days, and it knocks the wind out of your sails, and you feel demotivated.
It's also sequencing the tasks that you can control. If you're going to spend, that's exactly what you just said. Like, if you're going to spend all your time on returns, you can't control that return. It's already came in. It's already been decided. You can move on and process it, or you can spend 3 hours crying over that. And trust me, I've done both of those ways. I'll tell you which one is the nicer one.
Which one, Henley?
Just do it. Honestly, just get it off the home screen. Give the people a label, get it off the home screen, and it's out of your life. And then when it shows up, give them their money back and move on. The amount of time we're wasting on people that don't even know exist is ridiculous. Also, having an argument with them in your mind doesn't help either. I don't know who needs to hear that.
Anyway, I would love to hear the conversations we have in your mind. Back to you can only control what you can control.
Yes.
Most of the time, the only thing we can actually control is how we respond to a situation. Like, it's our attitudes and it's our emotions about everything, because I can't control the weather, and I can't control who's in charge of the company, the country, not the company, and I can't control what donations are going to come in for me to pick from. Like, I can't control those things, but I can control throwing my arms up in the air and saying it's all too hard. I can make the best of the situation that's presented to me.
That takes a lot of emotional maturity, I think. And sometimes I don't wake up as the 36-year-old I really am. Sometimes I wake up as a 5-year-old. And so it's hard. But
it does help to be able to self-filter, I think. I can control how I'm going to respond to most things before it happens. But that being said, I don't think it's appropriate either to just press down your anger and just like eat it. Like, I do think you need to feel your emotions no matter what they are. And if it's the tantruming 5-year-old, like, embrace that, but also move through it. Don't get stuck in it.
Use it as fuel to do more. There's a good
Totally.
one. And so the next point we're going to hit is then you reach the 300K to a million point, which is where I am. I'm trying to get from, that's my bracket I'm in, right? And so, funny enough, he says the main reason people businesses hit a breaking point or a stagnant point to this is an inability to delegate individual tasks. And he's not just talking about hiring people, he's talking about using systems, programs, procedures, or hiring someone. Our inability to let go of control over things, our inability to delegate tasks. He's speaking about individual tasks to programs that help us, to people we employ, to systems that do it better. And he says a lot of people will hit between 300 and a million and never make it any further because they can't take their hands off of everything.
I would agree with that. That would be my biggest downfall at the moment. Yeah.
I felt attacked.
Yeah, I feel seen.
And I think for me, the fact that he was also not just saying, I think this was in one of his other videos, because I then went and watched his videos at his YouTube because I was fascinated by this theory. I felt it was so real. And I think he was saying that that's not necessarily just hiring. A lot of people hire too quickly and then they end up working for the employees, where you work your butt off just to be able to pay someone. And that's not how it should be.
A lot of people do that.
Yes, but he's talking about delegation can be anything from an automated messaging system to a software that helps you do something better, to an agency that can take over something for you. I think a lot of us get stuck in we need to hire. But there's so many non-critical parts of our business that we can delegate and use tools for to help us. We just don't see it because we just think, oh, I need to hire an employee.
Yeah. like offhand, like I know that it's a little bit controversial, but you could get a VA to help with your listings. Like
Yes.
that's not an employee, but it is outsourcing to a degree to be able to um, build up your business in a different way. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the thing that's going to get you more money is getting more listings up.
Yeah.
And to a degree, there is only so many hours in a day that you can put into the business yourself.
Yeah. Selling things, you can automate your returns through eBay. They can
Oh
automatically
yeah.
issue labels for you and that
Mm-hmm.
part come back. I have automated messaging through a different software company I use. It automatically messages people and asks for their card details, automatically message them when they leave feedback. So that part of my system is automated. There's so many non-critical parts of the business that we don't have to have our hands in.
I will say that I've also automated my schedule so I can be as tired as I am now, but I know exactly where I need to be after we finish recording here, and I know exactly what my day is going to be doing, so I can just kind of get through it on autopilot because
Yeah.
it's taken all the mental like thinking out of what's going to be next. Like I know what's next. I just got to go do it.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to be your we're both trying to get to the
Mm.
million, right? Sam's a bit closer than I am. But we're both trying to get there. What do you think your snag points are gonna be to get there?
Shipping. Yeah, I will have to outsource the shipping. So I've been speaking to my accountant, and I have to move to a company structure. So I've been under the sole trader Australian business setup, and for taxable reasons, I will need to go to the company structure this coming financial year. And basically, that means that for every dollar that the business earns, it will be charged at the same rate rather than it being like a tiered system.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to go into that, I need to kind of hit it and punch all the way through,
Yeah.
rather than just hitting it. Then I'll probably end up with a little bit less money. Um, so I need to work more, but in the process of that, when you work more, you're going to have to ship more. But
Yeah.
I will have to bring on someone as an employee to be able to do the shipping, and it will probably be Lauren.
So if you struggle with shipping, imagine what I'd have to go through.
Mate, I'm not putting a fender into anything. You in a dashboard, no chance.
Because my answer was actually it was gonna have to be a menial task that won't have to be checked by me. So that's I can't do the listing because even if I let someone else do the listings, I'll still have to check them,
Of course, yeah.
right? So we're double working.
Yeah.
Okay. If someone else does the photographs,
Yeah.
that could work, or
It
they'd
could.
have to do the shipping.
Yeah, see, with the photographs, it would have to have someone come into my house, and that I don't want.
So,
Or
yeah, their
there's no
house.
room for two setups.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you think
But
that's
even
the only thing that's going to stand in your way to have you got everything else set up to be able to achieve it?
to the million,
Yeah.
if I keep doing exactly what I'm doing, like with the 120 that I've been doing for the last few weeks, I'll blow through the million at 120.
Are you listing 120 live?
Not live. Because we're away next week, so I did the 7 days at 120 and fell apart after 3 days. But then when I went through it and went through the journey of 7 days, I was fine. And then the week that we didn't record, I was working part time for the op shop that I know.
Yeah.
I had a part time job for a week and donated 3.5, 4 hours of my day for 5 days. So I worked 20 odd hours. And then I was like, wow, I still did 100 a day, Hanley. Like, where did this time come from out of my schedule? And I wasn't finishing overly late. So then I was like, well, if you can work part time for someone else and show up for someone else, why don't you show up for yourself in the same capacity? So the week after this week, I've continued with the 120, but I've been saving the extra 40. And it's because we're away next week. I need to then be able to send them live. But when we get back, the plan is to send 105 live and then keep banking up the remaining 15 for the trips down to Adelaide each 6 weeks.
What does that look like? 120 a day. Like, how long does it take to photograph 120 items?
About 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours to photograph 120.
Yeah.
Damn. And then how long does it take to list?
About the same. So what I do is I open, because I've got everything on a memory card, I just open everything on the screen. So I'll open like 40 tabs on the screen, and then I'll upload 40 sets of photos, and then I will just go through and work them all out and send them live. So it's only about 6 to 7 hours worth of work.
That's insane. How long does it take you to ship
Yeah,
120?
well, that will be where we run into the process bottleneck. Like, to pick on a Monday, if it was 120, the two of us, it would probably take about an hour. But then the packing, if we were to do that every day, and the end of it would take 2 to 3 hours, especially then taking it into the post office. So it, in itself, every day would be a task. So that's where the day would start to blow out.
That's an 11-hour day before you've even sourced.
Yeah. If that's why the shipping would have to go. So if it's the shipping is currently not that long.
Yeah, because I haven't
Because
caught
we're
up
obviously
with
not
you
doing
yet.
it. Yeah.
Well, you do on Mondays. You often have that
We
and
ship
more.
on the weekends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We
Wait,
made the
that
decision we had
that
to.
title you show on Monday is just Sunday.
No, so I can't drop it off at the post office because the post office doesn't open. So we have one post office.
Oh,
So I can't drop it off until the Monday. And that's only so it literally we put them in the blue bags and then we store them in the bathtub
in
because we've
the
got nowhere else to put
bathtub.
them. Yeah. Was that
That's
way?
hilarious. Wow. Okay. So an
Mm.
11-hour day, even if
Mm.
you outsource, well, no. So would you use that 4 hours to ship and pack then for sourcing, I would assume?
Well, I would still, so I can source 2 times a week and get enough for 80 a day. So if I was to increase
Okay.
sourcing to 3 times a week, in principle, I would be able to achieve 120 a day.
And how long does sourcing take?
So it's roughly between 9 and 1. So it's 4 hours. So it'd be 12 hours a week worth of sourcing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a big push.
Mm. But then, so hear me out. In terms of like the concept of yin and yang, right? And this is where I fall down. This is my biggest, I guess, deficit. Is I'm very good at the push. I will push my way there.
Yeah.
But then when I get to where I need to do the thing and I've got where I need, I don't know how to come into so the push is the masculine, just for the defined energy terms of the yin and yang. Then you need to go into your feminine, which is the trust. Like you need to trust that this is what's going to happen. Like you've pushed your way there, and you need to take a step back and just trust that this is what we're doing. And I struggle in that part where I don't necessarily trust the thing that I've built, the system I've built, the process I've built. So I will keep tweaking. Whereas this time, partly, I'm so tired that I have no ability to be self critical. I'm having to trust that this is correct. Like if I'm going to do 10-hour days, then it needs to be right.
That's insane to me. That is, well, I mean, it's amazing, but that's
What
insane.
part?
Just all of it. That seems a lot. Like a lot. And I just
I didn't wake up like one day from 10 and go, I'm going to list 120. Like it's been a journey to the
no,
120.
I'm just trying to even like at what point would you need to hire the shipper then? Like soon
Uh,
soon?
yeah. So when we're starting around, let me take it back a little bit further. So in June, when we have to go to the company structure, it means then Laura will come on as a paid employee. So at that point, that's when it would happen just financially, like it has to happen in that way. So in the initial stages, until she's fully comfortable with the process, I would still go pick with her just to make sure everything there's fine, until she's like, yeah, we're good. And then on the back end, like I will be here listing. So I'll be at the desk out there and she'll be shipping in here. So I can still be supportive if needed, but it'll be around July when that actually has to happen. So I need to be able to punch through in the next 4 months to have enough, I guess, oomph in the business to be able to justify that expense.
I find it so crazy how we end up doing things the same, me and you, even though we don't have discussions over it. But like somehow we always end up at the same place because we have a similar plan, which I'm not going to talk about on here yet because it's not public. But that was the route we were taking as well.
Yeah.
Because going forward, I don't think we'll need more than us to go where we want to go.
Same. Yeah.
I think worst case scenario, we'll need us and maybe a VA.
Yep. That makes sense. Yep.
Maybe. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about just drafting, and I'll still go in and do the listings, check them. Like I won't let someone else just
Send them live.
publish. Yeah. But I think kind of that's the structure that we're looking for and we're wanting. And I don't think we'll get to the point where I actually want to turn this into like 10, 20, 15 employees. I know it can be done, and I know it's done very successfully. I don't know. Most people who done it to that scale aren't on just eBay though. A massive part of their business would be like Amazon, and so I don't actually know of someone who went to that scale just with eBay. I'm sure there are people out there. I just don't know of them. But I also think at that point, if it's able to be us plus a VA if needed, even just the two of us, that frees up my whole day just to photograph, list, and do the customer service. I think I can reach where I need to go to be able to generate enough overflow cash flow to lean into other things.
Yeah. And having less moving parts to like you and Martin working in the business together, you have less people that I guess can disrupt that, but also they're not working to the same vision as you are. So they might not be willing to push when they're sick or anything like that. And that's like external factors that make it more difficult, in my opinion. Like I will still show up if I'm sick, like that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But if you've got a paid employee, like if their kid's unwell now, that's your problem,
Yeah.
which is a
Yeah.
huge limiting factor.
So I know neither of us are anyway close to the next brackets, but I thought it would be fun to just run through them anyway because we might struggle into this. So then when you get from 1 million to 3 million, the problem you have is you're not able to delegate whole projects. Right?
Yeah.
So whereas in the first task, it was individual tasks. So you employ someone with a specific task, or you get something that helps with a specific thing. When you get to 1.3 million, you need to be the one who stops driving the project, and you need to be able to delegate whole projects or sections of your business. As in, someone has to take control of eBay, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
You'd need a manager. Like,
Yes.
yeah, whether it's a project manager or just like a manager of staff members, yeah. It would be like you opening up, say, a car part wholesale business and you're going off to focus on that and you've just got Martin in charge of the entire eBay setup with employees that have replaced you. That would be very difficult, but that's essentially what that is. And then you would
Yes.
have to be able to have those branches of your business. Like wholesaling is not something that I see in my future. It would be like I would be going off to run an entirely different business, and taking my foot off the eBay pedal and
Yeah.
letting someone else run it. That'd be
And
hard.
then 3 million to 10 million is delegating results.
Oh,
Yes.
I've not
So
heard of that.
now you've got someone who runs the project, but you've still got your hand on the results, the report. You still, okay, so now you need to be able to say, actually, with the money from this business, we're starting up this business. So this business, I'm expected to run this way, and I'm putting you in charge of the strategy, the results, the entirety of the outcome of this project, which I don't think I can fully understand because I've never been in that situation. So maybe I'm completely missing what he was saying, because I won't know exactly what that means till I'm able to get there.
Oh yeah, which I'm guessing is going to be a little ways off.
I mean, 10 million is a little off target for this year, but we'll try next year.
I mean, you give it a crack.
You can't give it a go. But I was just really fascinated about this because he hit the first two so on the head for me. That my issue is time management. I was delegating the task, and I very much want to control everything. And even when I have help, I want to control the way they do it, which is fascinating because he said another thing, right? He said if you hire help, you need to hire. There's two kinds of strategies he went by. The one's called the 1-3-1 way, where if your employee comes to you with a problem, I just want to give the solution. Like if someone comes to you with a problem, I'll just tell them what to do, and then that's the end of it. And actually, that's the wrong way, because you're not cultivating problem solving. You're not cultivating
Yeah.
someone who's, and you're also not giving them the opportunity to succeed at something.
Yes.
Right? The opportunity to feel good about something, to show. So what you have to do is they bring you one problem, you ask them to give you 3 solutions they've thought of, and then you ask them to give you one recommendation based on those 3 solutions they thought of. And that way they're actually doing stuff. And the only reason I bring this up is because I don't do that with anyone. If someone comes to me with a problem, I tell them what I want done.
I've started doing the, well, what do you think, like, to the situation, and some people can take that as like a personal attack, because if you
Yeah.
don't answer their question that they've come to you with, it's like you're denying them access to you, and
Yeah.
it's not. Whereas most people, including myself, have learned better through doing rather
Yeah.
than being told, because you
Yeah.
won't retain the information if you're
Yeah.
told. So you'll come back with the same question to the same problem.
Which is something I've been doing so wrong. In a lot of my relationships, my family, my kids, is I'm very much, I'll just tell you. And then I get annoyed when you ask the third time because I
Yeah,
already told you. But maybe I
yeah,
need to let you figure it out by yourself. And maybe it's okay for people to do things differently than me. It's secretly not okay, but it maybe needs to be okay. And
but
uh,
I was just gonna say, anything that's being decided upon, like there's very few things in the world that you can't retract. So making a
mhm,
decision today can be walked back tomorrow.
yeah.
There's very few things that can't be. So
And this comes back to the inability to delegate tasks because you want to be in control. And this comes back to why I'm at this 300,000 to a million struggling
yeah,
to find my feet situation, right? Because I'm
yeah.
so involved in everything that I'm not sequencing my tasks correctly.
Mm.
Hey, you see how this all connects?
Oh
And
yeah.
that's why I'm stuck.
Yeah, for me, the need to control everything is such a safety mechanism, because
Yes,
the need to control, me controlling the situation, has got me out of unsafe situations in the
yeah.
past. So it's a coping mechanism for me to be fully in control of every part. Um, so that would be something that I would have to work on in a deeper level to be able to let go of all facets.
That's so crazy because, and maybe this is taking a bit too far, but I'll share with you anyway. I've been told by psychologists that the reason I need to control everything is because I was in so many dangerous situations and I got myself out of it that I
Yeah,
don't trust anyone else to do it. And therefore, if I'm in control, I know I'll end up safe. And I was like, dude, it's Tuesday. Do we have
yeah,
to like get into this? This is crazy. So another thing that they were saying towards the end they were talking about how their schedules and how they run things, and it was very interesting to me because they both said that they adhere to something called the 10-80-10 in work.
hmm,
So your involvement in your business when it gets to that 30 10 million 30 million point should be a 10-80-10, where the 10% is you give a task, give a project, give a business, give a idea. They go do 80% of the work. And then the last 10% is you refining or giving feedback, or so you are only actually involved in 20% at all times.
That's the same as you having a VA that does the 80% of the listing and
Yeah.
you're just reviewing it to send it live, or a staff member
Yes.
drafts the listing. Same concept. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you delegate things, instead of then trying to have 100% control over what this person does, you do the delegation, they do the work, you do the feedback and the refining. So it's a 10-80-10.
Yeah. I can see that being, 100%. I would agree with that. There's times where that does become double handling, if you're having to go over and actually tweak everything that they do. But for the most part, nah, that makes complete sense to me.
I was absolutely blown away by this podcast. I've
Mm.
listened to it 3 times. Just, I think because the first section of it, I related so much to it. So then it felt to me like it was a bit of a glance into the future. These
Mm.
other problem points they were talking about. And I was just trying to think to myself, sitting there going, if you're not going to evolve, you're not going to get out of this. You are so stubborn. You are so controlling. You are so, even in other relationships in my life, very much to that point. And like, this is life advice. You can take that and implement it in other situations as well. And I think for the first time I got a good look at my personality traits that could be holding me back. Because it's always very easy to say my sourcing's holding my back, my process is holding back, and I think I looked at myself and I was like, well, actually, well, they're not even personality traits. I guess just the way I act. Because I don't believe that everything is a personality trait. I believe anything can be adjusted and changed with
Of
enough
course.
habit building, right? And so, but it's the first time I looked and I said, actually, what might be holding me here in this bracket is me, like as a person.
Yeah, honestly, I said earlier, like, I need to get out of my own way. Like, most of the time, I hold myself back. And most of the time, I think most people, whether it's through a lack of confidence, a lack of trust, whatever, they cause themselves to become stagnant. Like the definition of like not in flow. And if you define flow as just like the act of moving through tasks and completing the tasks to the highest ability, um, and being in a flow state, if you will, which is where things just come effortlessly, most of that can only occur when you get out of your own way, when you get out of your head and just into the task that needs to be done. And if the task that needs to be done is letting, I don't know, Karen come in to take photos for you, like, that's what needs to be done. You need to just allow it to happen.
I think also another thing that was said, it might have been in a different video. I don't know. I've been watching a lot of stuff. Um, is limitation is where innovation happens. If you can
Mm.
look at yourself or a situation and say, this is my limitation, how do I get out of it, or how do I get past it, or how do I, then that's the part where the real successful people and the real entrepreneurs are able to innovate,
Mm.
right? And then those of us who can't are that's where we get stuck. We just
Yeah.
get to a point where we burn ourselves out trying to push past it instead of creating ways and being innovative about it. You just look at what's already there and going, I can't do this, or it can't be done.
Do you have a limitation at the moment that you're trying to push through?
Yeah. Yeah. So um the research part in my listing is very hard. It's the most time consuming thing in my business. And you would think the packing is, but it's not. I can actually pack really quickly, but it genuinely having to sit there and identify everything in the make, and that, like, it's the hard. That's why my listings take so long.
That's really interesting. Is there a
But
way you can automate that?
it also makes you think, well, maybe there's a gap here,
Mm.
you know?
What's the gap?
Well, I'm not going to say that here.
Okay.
That
The
will come up.
mystery of Hanley.
I'll text you later.
You'll forget. It'll be like 3 weeks from now and I'll have no
Probably. But then
context.
I'll come to you and be like, hey, I remember what we spoke about. I just think that sometimes we need to look, some of the most successful businesses or investment routes or have come from people looking at a situation, not able to find a solution and creating a solution. I think we live in a
Absolutely.
world where technology is growing and exceeding so quickly that a lot of things are possible that weren't possible. And I think
Of
now there is solutions available if you're willing to maybe invest in it or put some time and effort into creating it for yourself if it's not there.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some people create some crazy extensions for their like browser. So instead of
Yeah,
using the sell similar model, they've created extensions where they can just click like, I don't know, 10
yeah,
t-shirts, 3 pants, 6 jumpers, and then it will populate a templated opening of browsers, and then they just have to upload the photos. So it takes out the whole like back end search process.
yeah,
Crazy.
I know.
Mm.
And so I think I need to either find what someone else has innovated or maybe take a step to innovate some things on our own, or there's many parts of my business that I'm stuck in at the minute. And when I
Mm.
say stuck, I don't mean I'm not moving, it's just slow going, right?
Yeah, of
And if
course.
I
Yeah.
can find a way to fast track that while still being accurate, that would
Mm.
be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, coming back to the whole, there's very few things that you can implement that you can't walk back. You can trial different things until you find it.
Yeah,
Like you can give it a good, I like to give things several weeks before I can it, because sometimes things need to be tweaked before.
yeah,
Um, but if you've got possibly like a solution that you've implemented that is half right, you can then take it back to the drawing board and like tweak it, whatever it is, whether it's maybe the
yeah,
wrong person or slightly the wrong system. If it's looking for like car parts and stuff, like maybe just for example, it's implementation of Google image search or something like that, just for a way out there idea. If it doesn't work, then you can use a different form of AI to be able to try and find the part.
yeah,
Like the concept's still there, it just may need to be changed in terms of the operating procedure in which
yeah.
it's occurring on.
Yes. I think we're also in a current age about of where these things are so much more possible,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
more than it even was 5 years ago. And
Even last year.
I know. And so I think I'm much more excited about it now.
Mm,
Like when I think about things, I get excited about it, and I think that's part of why I got my mojo back with the business, and I'm like increasing my listings and I'm fired up again because I'm
mm,
excited. I feel like things are going to get better. And yes, things are going to get harder as well. You know, ease brings competition. We know this.
of course,
As soon
yeah.
as something gets easier, it brings competition. I understand that. But you have to have confidence in what you built in your ability and your experience. Because even if a bunch of people jump on this now, understand we are 5 years ahead.
Oh yeah, your store's already big enough that it's so I like to think about the fact that the larger the store is, the more it can pad out any sort of like economic slowdown that, or
Yeah.
conversely, any sort of competition that comes into the space. But obviously, if I can list 120 a day and someone's listing 10 a day consistently, I'm doing 12 years worth of work to their 1 year worth of work. So my result will be 12 years in advance. Similarly, if they're doing 60 a day, I will get 2 years to their 1 year,
Yep.
and if you're able to continue to build like that, you'll outpace any sort of competition that comes in.
Yep. And I agree. And I think that's why maybe I'm not as frightened about
Mm.
what's coming as a lot of resellers currently are. I think there is a bit, to be honest, sometimes it feels a bit like fear mongering, the things people are putting out and saying like, and it's not. I don't think, you know what it sounds like? You know when the internet first came out and it made that funny sound when you connected to it and your mom had to unplug the home phone to get on
I
there?
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then your Oma and your gran and your grandpa, in Afrikaans we call them my Oma and Opa. They were
Mm.
like, "What is this wickedness? What is this magic? It's going to take over the world. I remember in 1999, New Year's Eve, going into 2000, my grandpa was scared of our electric gate because he thought at midnight the Y2K robots are going to take over the world. And you think this is like, you guys are laughing, but he was dead serious.
No, I only laugh because my mother was the same. My mother, not even my grandparents, my mother.
So we can sit here and be scared of AI and be scared, and yes, I'm sure there are parts of it which can be bad, but or we can be the people who grow with it and learn it while we can and develop with it, which honestly I think is the only choice we have.
Well, yeah, if it does continue to grow and develop in the way that it most likely is, it can replace a lot of entry level jobs, like data input or
Yeah.
like there's dictation services for like doctors to write letters and stuff like that. All you have to do is speak to AI and it will spit out the same information. Like
Yeah.
it will replace positions, and within that we need to be on the forefront of it replacing us in our role. So if we can coexist with it and then allow it to give us the ability to be creative with it, then if you learn how to prompt it properly, there's a world of being able to be the person that people come to as a consultant to be able to learn AI within their business if you're at the forefront of it. Like you can help big corporations implement AI if you're successful enough with it.
I think what I just also want to say is that with new things coming, the internet came and it did replace a lot of jobs. I understand there were
Yeah.
a lot of jobs that went with it, but the internet then came with a lot of new jobs that were created. And so maybe our jobs just evolve and change, and maybe certain careers die out, but new ones exist. Do you
Of
know what I
course.
mean? It's
Yeah.
always just a shift, it's never just a
Mhm.
full end. I am going to do my best to learn about it as much as I can and try to stay on top of it. I realize I'm at a disadvantage because I'm in my midlife, and older people don't learn as quickly apparently. But one day, I don't, I don't want to be the person who's scared of it, and then the whole world outgrows me, and here I am saying, the scared that the electric gate is going to come get me at midnight because the robots are coming.
Your electric gate is definitely going to come get you at midnight, Emily.
Well, I don't have one anymore, so there you go. Um,
You're correct, though. Like, I don't want to be someone that's just dismissive, I guess, because I'm like, this is not for me. Whereas if I can upload a photo into a system that can then spit out the title that I've trained it that I want, as long as it can do it in a speed that is faster than what I can do it, then there's absolutely no reason why I shouldn't use that system. Currently, for most of them, they can't do it fast enough.
So maybe people can in the comments for this week tell us what their take is on AI, because I really like to hear it, and then also tell us what breaking or sticking points they currently have in their business that they feel like they could innovate on. You don't have to tell us what your innovation is if you thought about it, but maybe if you can just identify the parts in your business that's limited or that you feel like needs innovation, and then you can go think and focus on that. Because once I identified those this week, I found like a whole new world opened up to me.
Yeah, but you were curious to go look, and then you were curious to try and find a solution to it. And I think a lot of curiosity can bring about the biggest amounts of growth in our business, but we have to look. Like, you can't just stay in the feeling of overwhelm or being stuck. You have to be curious as to what's like, how
Yeah.
do you get out of that?
I also just want to apologize for the lighting situation over here. I know it looks like it keeps flickering, it doesn't. Energy saving bulbs, which we have to use in the United Kingdom, make this funky disco pattern when you try to record it. So I apologize. I don't know if we have to put some kind of warning on here for flashing. I don't know. But you're not supposed to be looking at us anyway. You're supposed to be listening and working. So what are you doing? Go back to work. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.